Hi everyone, welcome to the second keynote of the day. I would like to announce Nikola Cvetković, founder of CODEstantine, No Limit Hub, and of company's Product Hive and Motion Ops. Prepare to hear something about developers' roast, good and bad sides of being a developer, and also prepare for a lot of memes and laugh. Nikola, please come here.
Thank you, Mihailo. I will be needing this. Thanks for coming to the talk. My name is Nikola Cvetković. I'll talk first to give you a little bit of background on myself so you can get the context. I'm a master of computer science. I've been leading tech companies for the last 10 years, both kind of outsourcing development projects as well as a couple of startups, some with more, some with less success, but it was definitely a fun journey. And I had a chance to work with a lot of developers, designers, business people, clients, etc. I even managed to stay and work in a corporate environment for almost 5 months. That was a pretty stressful period for me, but I somehow pulled through it. Never again to happen. Today I basically run 2 companies which are actually currently one company. So Product Hive is a product development agency, basically building development projects. As if for like 6 or 7 years, we've been building digital products for clients all over the world. But like over the last couple of years, we've transitioned mostly to working on our own products. The main one at this point being Motion Ops, simple software for service companies. It's like a web and mobile app, which consists of kind of traditional API on the back end, mobile app and web app on the front end. This is what basically almost the whole of our team is currently focused on, and it's super fun. So what's my goal for today's talk is primarily to try and have some fun. I also wanted me to have some fun while preparing this presentation. I managed to do that partially. It would be even better if I had it ready like 1 year before the event, so I wasn't stressed out if I will find enough content on time. But I hope that you will enjoy it and that we'll all have some fun. But on the other hand, I'm not a comedian. Let's get that straight. I'm not trying to be one. So please lower your expectations. If they were here, put them here, please. And then step on them a bit. And one final disclosure, I love my team. So most of the stuff I have also experienced firsthand, some in less, some more, some less firsthand. But any resemblance is pure coincidence. And all the relations to any people or places is purely coincidental. Let me start from how things used to be and how things are now. So everybody are kind of saying that developers have changed, they have become lazy, they don't think for themselves, etc. And there's kind of this perception that back in the days, developers were these hardcore, grimy people who used to get their hands dirty and like go and dig through the bytes of memory and like optimize everything to perfection. And they knew all the operating systems, how they worked inside and out on like the lowest level. They had to know assembly to actually even think about programming something. C and C++, of course, are the essential, like you cannot learn any other language before you learn C or C++. And like even before that, they didn't even need a laptop. So they were like punching holes in like big plates for ones and zeros to actually make things to work. This is the kind of view on the old school, traditional, back in the days developer, which at least I have, and from the stories that I have heard. Nowadays, things look that they might have changed a little. So looks from the outside looking in, the developers are kind of maybe a little bit lazy, or like they keep relying on ChatGPT. For example, since it came out, it's like they've been using it for like the last decade and not for like last 2 months. Like had an interview a couple of days ago, and like the person literally got offended because we told him to turn off the ChatGPT extension for autocomplete of his code during the technical interview. He said, "You'll never find what you're looking for because we're looking someone who actually wants to think and can think with his hand." So one of the other things, things take a little longer to actually get done. And my favorite, can we leave that peer comment for future sprint? That starts to happen quite a lot lately, and it's becoming a norm. And like one also kind of fundamental thing, whatever we say here, I'm hoping that nobody gets offended, because the goal of this is to actually try to look at and to kind of push things a little bit over the edge, even if they're not exactly like that from the start. Of course, this is not the truth either of these two. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Neither were the old school developers so hardcore in all of them. Neither are all the new guys so soft. So the point being, there is some middle ground, but both of these have some good and bad sides that each developer should integrate. So, of course, with the whole AI thing, being able to write code, it's normal to think like, is my job at jeopardy? Like, can this replace me? And actually, if you're even thinking about that, you're probably not as good of a programmer, or you're doing something wrong. If you know what you're doing, if you know your stuff. As I was saying, if you think AI will replace you, it will not. So don't worry about it, because somebody else already went through this whole thing you're going through. So you're not alone in this. Mathematicians already went through it. Physics guys already went through it. It's time for the developers as well. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so not everything is that bad as it seems. So I want to touch on like the juniors versus seniors kind of debate and what that is. Of course, there's like there's not a clear line what's one, what's the other, so it's really hard to tell. And like there's like people with a few months of experience thinking they know as a senior. There are people as seniors who think they still have so much to learn that they're basically juniors. So there's not the real divide here, but there is kind of a difference in the approach that people take. So I would take a look at those. And also, like recently had an interesting interview where the person, like we had an interview, and like at the end, I was, what are your expectations financially? And he says, for which position this is, like because we had like, it was like split position, like meteor, senior, or something like junior, meteor, like looking for both. And he's like, so depending on what I tell you, you'll accept different salary, which makes it kind of absurd. You know what you know, and you will get what you what your value is. And on that topic,
Silverstein, no. Silverbird, nope. Goldberg, that's not it. Golden silver, damn it. Steven?
Hey, Aaron, why are there 443 failed prod deployments?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The branch being deployed is literally called Aaron Intern Prod, followed by 7 digits that appear to be your phone number.
Oh, that branch. Yeah, I'm trying to push to production because nobody's reviewing my pull requests.
No worries, I'll just take a look at the pull request.
Wait, really? You'll look at my pull request?
Okay, let's see. So you changed 11,000 files of our core critical service, and you added 39,000 lines of code, and there are, no unit tests. Aaron, what is this?
Trust me, it's gonna be really good.
Aaron, what are you doing? You're supposed to be focusing on the ethical unit test video module series. And Lucas, work on the event registration.
Sorry, Mildred.
so while I'm trying to get my mojo back, these are the guys TechRose show. I'll have the credits in the end. I'll use a couple of their videos. Make sure you follow them because their content is awesome. So the difference in like the approach that the juniors and seniors take is kind of encapsulated in this. Like juniors when it works from the first time, they're super happy. Yeah, everything's good, everything. But the seniors know that they've been there, they've done it, and they know if something's looks like that, it probably isn't. That's the same as like if you have kids at home. The worst thing is if you hear the silence, you know something's wrong there. So like if you incrementally get to a solution which works, then you're happy. But if everything works from the get-go, something might be wrong there, and you should probably dive deeper. There's also like this whole kind of, I don't know the English term, but like people that have switched their profession and now go into development. And like this whole thing, like if you're non-IT people in IT position, you're going to have a bad time. So it's true and it's not true, so it doesn't have to mean anything. I've seen people who have been teaching lectures at the colleges about certain topics that don't know those things that they actually teach. I've seen people who never went and never finished, like went past the first year of college or never ever got into one, who are now some of the most proficient and best developers that I have seen. So it's not essential, it's a good start, but you have to know both to do French fries and to do pizza if you want to be a good developer. For those of you who are younger and haven't seen that episode, it's a reference to this slide. But again, juniors are essential to every team and they bring a lot of value. And a lot of times, actually, the innovation happens from the juniors up, and they actually suggest some new ways how things work, some new technology. Maybe not all the time, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but you have to be open-minded and consider all of this. So the biggest skill, which, in my opinion, apart from like the general knowledge that goes, of course, into everything, is like the debugging and how does a developer approach the debugging process. Yeah, this is one of the frequent ways how developers try to solve problems. They think if they spend more time on it, it will solve itself, or like just, it's a harder problem than it seems, of course, but the main skill is to actually learn how to debug and spend less time into figuring out what's actually the root cause of the problem and actually understanding the root causes of multiple problems that happen over time. That's how the knowledge builds. And that's why I think it's the most important skill a developer can have, apart from communication. So, of course, when debugging, console log, especially for front-end people, your friend, right? Or die dump or whatever, if you're on the back, just print it, put it everywhere. Well, it's not that big of a deal if it ends up in production, right? Who's going to care? Who's going to open the inspect element? Nobody, right? And if you don't comment code often, but like usually when you do, you just comment a bunch of printout statements or the console logs that you put in before. Actually, in JavaScript, for example, there's like debugger line, which kind of opens up the debugger in like any other language. So people should start using that more. And what's also kind of important skill for a developer to have is to write clean code. There are a few, of course, there are multiple types and styles of writing code, but like I'll touch on 5 differential examples. One is like computer science student 101. This is a typical Fibonacci array, writing out the function which throws out the Fibonacci numbers. This is a typical computer science 101 student, like as you would expect, recursive function. This is like a math PhD. So this is the same function that does the same thing, only the math PhD thinks he's a little bit smarter than the other guy, so he's trying to make it a little bit more complicated. We have a code written at Hackathon. Usually get a few options to work manually, whatever. It will pass what we need for now. It will pass as a smoke test. And I particularly love hackathons. I would work all the time in hackathons if everybody else were to join me. Like I would have 2 hackathons a week, and that would be the way I work. And the funny thing is, like during hackathon, everybody is super productive, but like when the hackathon ends, there's like a gap in productivity, and like the thing that, like, this is the hackathon kind of, what's it called? I don't know the term. But when it happens that basically during the hackathon things get rolled out super fast and everything can be done, but later on a certain feature, which is just a minor part of all that, lasts much longer than the whole hackathon. And there's like a code written in a large company, so a bunch of helper stuff and stuff you pull out from, and like naming conventions, etc., which makes things super complicated and in a way boring. And there's code written in a startup, which is how some of our front end looks like from time to time, like a bunch of to-dos and get back to this. Do we ever come back to that? Yes, for some of them. Some of them become eternal comments, hopefully to be solved sometime in the future. And these are just, like, I pulled a couple of just examples from our code and like how to structure it and how code we believe should look. Anybody knows which language this is? Yep, PHP, Laravel. So this is basically a route that updates one certain entity. As you can see, there's split out shared responsibility, fully object-oriented code in a way that just makes sense, divided into different services which do, and different objects which all are encapsulated and should serve its purpose. And as you can see, it's super easy to read, even though this is a complex method that's doing an update on what? An update on timesheets entity. This is another one. So a couple of things we use is like since we started the project, and I'm talking now on the backend side, like we implemented like no magic strings anywhere in the code. So that's the thing that our tech advisor kind of really pushed hard for, and the backend team were super tedious about it in the start, but now it got a hand of it. There's like a ton of advantages. So as you can see, basically like we define all the strings, whatever is going to be used on the page at the start of the class, and then if anything changes in the future, it changes only in one place. And when you're reading actually stuff, you're not saying like this is 0 and then question what is 0 and how to change it and why is this 0, that 0, not that the other one. So like using constants to do that stuff, and again putting stuff to do a single stuff that they're destined to do. And for example, like even for DB columns, like we're making them as constants, even that they're not going to change over time most likely, but still a good practice to follow. And we love Laravel for multiple reasons. Laravel is the framework behind PHP. You've probably heard many times that PHP is dead or is dying. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here for a long, long time. And actually, what people are not aware is how big of the community of Laravel especially has grown, and all the different services that they offer basically out of the box to make your life easier. So like we're running on the latest PHP on Laravel, and we're utilizing a bunch of these kind of new first-party services that Laravel supports, like Laravel Vapor, being able to deploy PHP serverlessly to AWS, Laravel Nova, like a out-of-the-box admin panel to manage stuff. Shift lets you automatically upgrade your PHP and Laravel versions, basically changes all the functions, adds everything that it needs to, like literally one click, you get a pull request and you click yes. Like imagine if you had something like that for whatever, React upgrade. I think if you had that, you would make millions. If somebody knows some service that does something similar, let me know. And a bunch of other stuff like Laravel Octane, which kind of allows the multi-threading, which was the biggest problem of PHP in the past. Now you can do it, Laravel Octane, which also kind of caches everything and speeds up all the requests 10 times, because it changes how the whole PHP framework works from actually being the FPM dependent, which is like every request was stateful, to actually now switching it to stateless working mode, where it works basically similar to Node.js, which performs much faster, much better, and on some benchmarks much faster than Node.js actually Express. So that was a bit touch on the back end. Oftentimes things happen like this, depending on the company, from company to company. Some have usually at least one side like this. Some companies have two sides like this, and for some of them it's other way around. So maybe backend is a much bigger of a mess than front end or whatever. But usually one side is a bit messier. And one of the reasons for it is JavaScript. So if you need something to kind of mess up your life, there's one idea how to do that. Basically, let me be clear, we love JavaScript, especially React, and we base everything we do in React, both regular React and React Native. So we like it, but it is a bit of a mess. But when these two sides join forces, wonderful things can happen, right? And if you manage to get those two teams to work together as one, you get some marvelous looking things as the end result, which is the goal of all of us. Optimizing code is, of course, important for everyone. And really, you have to think about how much storage are your apps actually using. You have to pay attention to that, and like, is this really strange that Twitter is actually utilizing 10 gigs of your storage, right? Crazy. So for example, I wanted to add just a couple of sprinkles of something also useful, so that it's not just the talk about memes and stuff, but like also to share some of the cool things we're doing. So for example, we recently installed a package for Laravel called Clockwork. You see it, this is actually a Google Inspect Developers Console, Inspect element. And you get this new tab where you can actually see the details of each request that happens on your application. You can run this also without the front-end UI, so just on the back end through Postman or whatever. So there's an option for that, but like this is super useful to actually know how much time each of your requests, like which requests are actually happening on the page, how much time is it taking, and actually how much time takes for the HTTP traffic to answer, the application to bootstrap and answer, and how much is the database waiting time. And actually which queries are getting kind of executed when cache is hit, etc. So this is like a second tab. Basically, you can see the actual SQL queries that get executed, because sometimes they're hidden behind the model and might not be so easy to understand what's actually happening there. But like with this cool package, you can do that, and of course track cache hits or misses, and have a better idea on that. This is how we, for example, monitor other stuff on AWS. We deploy basically our whole infrastructure on AWS, and this is a custom-made dashboard which kind of follows all the services that the application needs in one easy-to-use and understandable dashboard. This looks complex, but it's super easy to set up if you're already on AWS. Basically takes a little bit of JSON configuration, nothing else. This is AWS dashboard. So it's important to actually care about your code and to improve it over time. There are tools. I'm saying this is like the way we do things and how we work. Of course, there's a ton of tools, whichever programming language you work in. You should find something and install like this so that you're actually aware of what happens behind the scenes, so that you can learn and improve. Because if you don't know where the problem is, you will not know how to fix it. And yeah, code review is an important part of every process. My friends at TechPros have also an interesting story of
spaces instead
different
of tabs, camel case. What is this? The zoo?
types
Do you
of
know how to name a variable?
code reviews.
Where are the comments?
Oh wow, look at the control flow there. Is that Bellman Ford? That is incredible. Can you maybe do this in O of N? Otherwise, this is fantastic. Here's an article I found about multi-threading and a hint.
Looks good to me.
Don't squash changes, push to master, merge, and delete repo.
Who's your favorite guy? Last one? Push and delete branch. I like the no-look guy. Looks good to me. And of course, there's technical debt always associated. No matter how good of a developer you are, there will be some things.
Production is so slow and keeps crashing.
There's too many bugs. I can't take them. They're everywhere.
I've never seen code so old. It looks like it was written in AngularJS.
Ah, yes, one of the ancient programming languages.
What a disaster.
Every time I fix one bug, another one appears.
There are 100,000 employees at this company. Why are we the only ones working on this tool?
I just want to sit here for 30 years and make this efficient.
Let's just focus on making this existing code work.
Hello there, team! We have very exciting news. Leadership wants to ship 15 new features by next Tuesday. Can we make it work?
Can you relate? I'm the one who wants 14 new features for next week, just so you know. I'm the one to blame. So we all have this, and we've all probably experienced this. Technical debt happens. It's unavoidable, but how we control it and how we keep track of it is, of course. And of course, if we know how to avoid it, avoid it. That's the thing. And communication is key, of course, like in every business. It's important to have like an open, honest relationship, to be responsive, to communicate with your colleagues and help each other in any way you can, and be out there for your team. On that, you should learn from more experienced colleagues, but also learn from younger ones, because there's always something you can learn from anyone.
Hi, Lucas. Thanks for meeting with me.
For sure, what's up?
So, do you have any tips on how to succeed around here?
Appear very busy. I'm talking completely full calendar. I have multiple work items on the board at the same time, so nobody knows the status of each one. When you go to stand-up, have a very long list of minor accomplishments.
Isn't the point of stand-up to uncover blockers and find effective ways to move forward?
Probably, but here we just try to one-up each other, even though low-key in the last 4 weeks, I just worked on one bug and a spike.
What's a spike?
It's an excuse to have no business impact for 1 to 5 days. It's kind of like PTO without taking PTO.
Any other tips?
Yeah, have fun and take advantage of virtual backgrounds. I'm actually skiing right now.
Virtual backgrounds is super important. Takeaway, yeah. Any product managers here in the room? So how many front-end developers? Raise your hand. Back-end developers? Who are the people here that your boss just made you come today? One? Okay. Run, man. I'll take cover. And of course, remote work has changed the way we work and has impacted the lives of all of us and the work of all of us. And this is the final from them, but these are a few also really important tips for your managers.
Welcome back to Tech Tips with Douglas.
Where am I?
If your manager keeps pinging you while you're trying to work, just hit him back with the old, "Thanks for wasting my time!" smiley face. That's all for today.
So one helpful takeaway from, if I could give you one helpful takeaway from today's lecture, take this. Just say it to your boss next time. I'm also blamed for this, pinging people while they're working and interrupting them. And I'm sure you are all now super happy to have all these Zoom calls and meet with people online, because it has so changed the way we work. It's so good now because we're super flexible, right? Even better when like there's no photos or videos of people. God knows what happens behind the scenes. I don't want to even know. maybe it became a little bit more convenient that like since you work from home, you can experiment from which side you want to hold your mouse from time to time. So you have much more flexibility in terms of how you organize your working hours. But in general, that's it. So I want to give credits to the Tech Roast show, which actually inspired me. I'm kind of following them. These are these guys which I put a few videos of. So they make me laugh every time. So they kind of inspire me to do this instead of a typical, this is the technology we use one. So I hope you enjoyed. Apologies for the technical difficulties that impacted my mojo. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. No question? Okay. So everything was self-explanatory, right? Not much to add. Cool. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed. And if we can have the next slide. The conference continues. Now we'll be splitting into two stages. One is here, the first one, Centurion stage, and 2 floors up. So you would have to go up the stairs, and then you will see the guides, the directions there, 1 more floor up. For the Tribune stage, we have 2 super interesting talks coming up from Nadia about re-rendering in React and how that happens and how we can optimize it. And on the Tribune stage upstairs, from Docker fail to Docker file. I wish I could be at 2 places at once. Unfortunately, I can't, but maybe I'll be able to rewatch the recording. Super interesting, both topics. If you're front-end dev working in React, definitely a lot of interesting stuff that how to optimize and how to minimize re-renders, which impact a lot, actually, the performance of the page. And if you ever work with any type of deployment, Mohammed will share 10 horrible Docker files or Docker fails, so like what not to do, like anti-patterns, as well as a couple of examples of how you should do things. It's kind of usually a shared responsibility between developers and DevOps on who does when, so it's a disaster waiting to happen. So it's important to know what you have at your disposal and how to get things sorted out and set up for success. We now have, again, a break, so make sure you grab a coffee, a drink, and some snacks before you head to one of these 2 wonderful talks. See you later.